Hi everyone, we are Group 2I. Do you know anything about game theory? Game theory is a method that guides you to do an important decision. Today we would like to share about the following title. To what extent can game theory be used to analyze real-life decision-making process? Firstly, we would like to talk about what exactly game theory is. And also, we got three cases for us to discuss today. We got penalty kick in football match, Donald Trump's presidential campaign, and international negotiation between Greece and EU. And then we will come up to a conclusion that how game theory can help us to do something that is accurate and correct. Game theory is proved by John von Neumann in 1994. It is the study of mathematical models. There are many different game types: cooperative and non-cooperative, zero-sum and non-zero-sum games, etc. And today we will only focus on one winner games because since it is easier for you to understand. Let's get started, and we start with the penalty kick.
Right, so let's start with the first case, the penalty kick. Well, I'm sure most of you here are familiar with the rule already, so through this video, we'll show you that as a football player, it is better to strategize the shot direction rather than improving the technical skills. So to model a penalty kick as a game theory, there are a couple of assumptions that need to be made. First, the direction of kick is strictly limited to left or right only. Second, as a professional player, they won't make any mistake. That is, when the striker shoots, it will definitely goes on target. So the only factor that can cause the striker not to score is if the goalkeeper manages to dive in the correct direction. And the exact same applies for the goalkeeper as well. They will make a save as long as they dive to the correct direction. Right, so the following matrix show the possible outcome from this game. Basically, the striker wins if he mismatches their choices, and the goalie wins if he manages to match their choices. So if you look at it, it's very similar to the matching pennies game. Right, so clearly there's no dominant strategy here. However, in the long run, sticking to any of the strategy will not yield a good result. The optimal strategy is to be random and to be as inconsistent as possible. Well, to put it the other way, player needs to employ a mixed strategy with the 50-50 ratio. In this way, neither one of the player can be exploited. Why? Imagine if you choose left 70% of the time and choose right 30% of the time. This way, the goalkeeper will just dive to the left, since statistically speaking, he has a higher chance to make a save. So let's take a look at some other interesting examples of the penalty kick. On 2008 and 9 season, a goalkeeper played a reverse psychology trick. Here is a sequence of events of what happened. The keeper started by pointing to the right hand side, indicating that he's going to dive there. And so from a striker point of view, he would thought that the goalkeeper is trying to trick him. So without any doubt, he did the reverse and directly shoot to the right hand side. But the goalie is actually doing exactly what he has said. And then in the end, he comfortably saved the goal by diving to the right. So it turns out that his plan worked perfectly. Another unique case occurred in the last World Cup in 2014. The match between Netherlands and Costa Rica ended up in a draw. And surprisingly, right before the penalty, Netherlands manager made an unusual substitution. He changed the goalkeeper only for the sake of saving the penalty, and apparently it worked out in the end, securing a spot in semi-final for the country. And it went viral to the media next day. Well, looking at all these examples, are they really such a genius move? Well, for people who knows game theory, it doesn't matter what the other player do. The ultimate decision is always to be random.
Now, let's take a look at Donald Trump's presidential campaign. Throughout the whole campaign, media never believed that Donald Trump could win the election, but eventually it happened. We are going to use game theory to analyze the strategies and interactions of each candidate so as to see clearer into the campaign. For Trump to win, his main objective was to take the dominant position during all the debates and discussions. First, and besides from the fights with Clinton, something happened inside the Republican Party structure. Some members wanted to oppose Trump due to the release of a tape detrimental to Donald Trump a few weeks before the vote, but they didn't take action because Trump already had the dominant position, so they are in a situation similar to the prisoner dilemma. Let's take a look at the table here. The table illustrates the outcome of those who wanted to oppose Trump. If only the player acts against Trump and the others pretend to support, the outcome is -10, because the player is acting alone, so Trump can call on the support for everyone else to punish him. But if the player acts against Trump and other players also act against Trump, the outcome is 1-1, because acting collectively has large power, so they will not be afraid of Trump. If the players pretend to oppose and the others act against Trump, the outcome is also 1-1, because other players can still form a large power to overthrow the leader, and this is the objective of all the players. And if the players and the others pretend to support, the outcome is 0-0, because since each of the players do not know whether the others are willing to incur the risk of retaliation to act against Trump, they will choose to pretend to support in order not to put themselves in a dangerous situation. Now let's focus on the strategies of Trump when interacting with Clinton. By insisting on an extreme position, Trump forced Clinton to answer in ways that gave him a first-step advantage. We can directly look at the table below. In this situation, each of them has two choices, but Clinton's choices depend on Trump's choices. If Trump don't attack Clinton, the outcome is 0-0, because there is no way for Clinton to choose anything. Only if Trump attacks Clinton, Clinton can choose to answer or not to answer. Answering accusations gives an outcome of -0.25 for Trump and -0.5 for Clinton, and not answering accusations gives an outcome of 1 for Trump and -1 for Clinton. In both cases, Clinton gets more disadvantages than Trump, which is what Trump is willing to see. Therefore, Trump chose to attack Clinton, and Clinton, without a choice, chose to answer, which is still better than not answering. In such a case, Clinton fell into a death spiral.
Here comes to the last case study, which is about the negotiation between EU and Greece. The introduction of euro reduced the trade costs in Eurozone countries in 2011, and the reports of Greece's fiscal mismanagement in 2009 had given rise to the serious debt crisis faced by Greece. High spending with weak revenues are the causes of the crisis. Over the past year, the inefficient public administration, tax evasion, and costly welfare system are the main factors of the crisis. We think that less equilibrium exists in this case, that no one is willing to benefit their opponents by changing their strategies. The players here are the current Prime Minister and Yanis Varoufakis of Greece, Alexis Tsipras, and the troika like EU, ECB, and IMF. Now I will pass the time to my groupmate to elaborate more about the implication of the game theory in this case.
Taking this into account, we can apply game theory to this debt negotiation between Greece and the European Union. Let's first have a look at Greece's Prime Minister's strategy. He wanted more negotiation power, hence he organized a referendum, and he knew that the people would vote against the European help plan. Having the support of the Greek citizens gave him much more credibility to negotiate. He also thought that the European Central Bank would fear a Brexit, as it could be an incentive for countries like Spain, Italy, or even Portugal to follow Greece out of the Eurozone. But actually, this strategy was not very effective, as the European Union was in a total dominant position and didn't really fear Brexit, knowing that the consequences would be terrible for Greece in the long run. So they stayed firm and wanted to impose the austerity plan, knowing that Greece would need the money. So now that we know the positions and goals of every actor in the game, we can study the possible issues of the Greek crisis using game theory and payoff calculations. So the first situation is when both parts accept a plan. The Greek economy would recover and the Eurozone would remain intact, despite accepting less fiscal constraints and a reduction of the Greek debt. The second situation would be when the plan is rejected. Then we have two possibilities. The first one is when the Brexit provokes important difficulties for Greece with a payoff of 0, but with Eurozone not affected with the payoff of 1. The second possibility is that the Brexit provokes the collapse of the Eurozone, then the payoff would be 0 for both players. So definitely, cooperation appears to be the best way to reach an equilibrium with positive payoffs for everyone.
After what we have discussed today, we find out that game theory is useful, and one mistake may cause you to become a loser. So, if you want to be a winner, apply game theory is the way you should consider first. Be smart, be prepared for any games. Enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you for listening.